No, sir. No, sir. I was just ready to note that it's 7 o'clock by my time. So I do not have a fancy gavel at home like Miss Skinner, but we will all pretend, and I will pretend to gavel in and welcome everyone to the July 6th, 2020 Jefferson County School Board organizational meeting. And while I do not have a gavel, I do happen to have a lovely rendition of the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance. So if should be coming up on your screen. So if you could all please stand and join me in the pledge, I would appreciate it. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United
States of America
and to
and
the
to
republic
the republic
for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
with
and justice
liberty
for all.
and justice for all.
Thank you very, very much. I deeply appreciate it. So if you are on this call, you recognize that we have a much to celebrate with the election of our school board members and the citizens of Jefferson County having taken the time and the effort to be civically involved and be involved in our school system. So I'd like to take a moment and welcome the return of and the inauguration of a couple of our board members. First, I'd like to welcome back Mr. Mark Osborne, representing the Shepherdstown District.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Then I would like to welcome also from the Shepherdstown District, our newest board member, Dr. Donna Joy. Welcome aboard, ma'am. And finally, I would like to welcome the return of Mr. Gary Cable, our Cabletown board member. So, very happy to see all of these folks. I look forward to working for all of you in the coming year as we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, and I look forward to us working together to resolve them. So at this time, I will turn the meeting over to Ms. Laura Storm, who will be swearing in our board members. Ms. Storm.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for this honor again. I'm not sure I'll refer to you, Dr. Gibson. Do you want me to do these oaths one at a time? That might be easier. I can tell with the audio, everybody's coming through at different times. So it may be easier if I just do one person at a time, if that's acceptable. Okay. Mr. Osborne, you're up. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. May I have you raise your right hand, sir, and repeat after me? I, Mark Osborne.
I, Mark Osborne,
Do solemnly swear.
do solemnly swear
That I will support.
that I will support
The Constitution of the United States of America.
the Constitution of the United States of America
And the Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia.
And that I will faithfully discharge.
And I will faithfully discharge
The duties of member of the Jefferson County Board of Education.
the duties of the Jefferson County Board of Education
To the best of my skill and judgment.
to the best of my skill and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Cable?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's not Mr. Cable I'm looking at. Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Can I have you raise your right hand, sir? I, Gary Cable,
I, Gary Cable,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of member of the Jefferson County Board of Education
the duties of members of the Jefferson County Board of Education
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Donna Joy? Are you there? Okay, we're going to go ahead and do yours again, please. I cannot see you, so I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, Dr. Donna Joy,
I, Dr. Donna Joy,
do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
and the Constitution of the State of West Virginia,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of member of the Jefferson County Board of Education
the duties of member of the Jefferson County Board of Education
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Gibson, I have a signed oath already for Dr. Joy. I just need signatures for Mr. Cable and Mr. Osborne. And I will need to file that with our county clerk's office. I'm not sure how to go about getting their signatures on these certificates.
I would be more than happy to come pick them up from your office. And then, as I have been doing a lot of in the last 3 months, delivering them to their homes and dropping them on their front porches and then letting them sign them and then picking them up from the front porches. My next career is with FedEx. I've got it down. We're good. We're good.
Okay, I spoke to Ms. Harner a little earlier today. She had stated she would swing by and pick these up, so you may want to work that out with her, but I will be in my office all day tomorrow at your convenience for you or Ms. Harner. I'm fine with that.
Okay, I will work it out with her. Actually, she was the person I was on the phone with because she's having trouble with her link and getting onto Zoom. So
Okay.
I will have a discussion with her this evening or tomorrow morning, but between the two of us, one of us will come get it.
Okay, thank you so much again for this privilege, and welcome everybody.
Thank you so much, Ms. Storm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, now that we have 5 duly constituted members of the Jefferson County Board of Education, we come to the portion of our meeting where we hold nominations for a chair for the Board of Education. So I will open up the floor to any of the 5 members who wish to nominate someone to serve as the chair for the 2020-2021 school year.
Madam Superintendent,
Yes, sir, Mr. Cable.
it is my honor and privilege to place into nomination Mrs. Kathy Skinner to the position of President of the Jefferson County School Board. May I have a second?
Ogden, second.
Thank you.
Do I have any other nominations from any of the other 5 school board members? Okay, well, I'm a teacher. I try to give some wait time. So hearing none, we have a nomination and a second for Ms. Catherine Skinner to serve as the school board chair. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of Ms. Skinner as the school board chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Congratulations or condolences during this difficult year, Ms. Skinner. You are now the chairperson of the Jefferson County Board of Education, and I will vacate the gavel to you so that you can move forward with a nomination and election of a vice chair. Thank you, ma'am, and congratulations.
All right, thank you. I'm honored to accept the position again, so thank you very much. Now we need an election for a vice president. Are there nominations for the position of vice president?
Madam President, it is my honor and privilege to place into into nomination Mr. Mark Osborne to the President or Vice President of the Jefferson County Board. May I have a second, please?
Ogden, second.
Are there any other nominations for the position of vice president of the board? All right, hearing none, nominations are closed. And if I could please ask for, we have the nomination. So all in favor of Mr. Mark Osborne for vice president?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Congratulations, or once again, condolences, Mr. Osborne. All right, the next item on the agenda is to set a date, time, and place of meetings. That one's a little tricky these days due to place, but the date and time, we've been doing Mondays at 7 p.m. Are there any other suggestions, or does that still work for everybody?
That works.
Was
And
that the second and fourth Monday?
Correct. The second and fourth Monday of the month. And the place is the school board office at 110 Mortington Avenue, but as of right now, we're still virtual. So that's the official location of the meetings. All right. All in favor of setting the date, time, and place of the meetings as the second and fourth Monday at 7 p.m. at 110 Mortington Avenue?
Aye.
Is there a motion?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
All right, Osborne and Ogden. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Kathy,
Yes, sir.
can you look to see if any of those are on a holiday or a day we're out of school, and bring that back to our next meeting?
Absolutely, and I'm sure there will be conflicts there. All right. Next, we have the action on board representation on standing committees. The first committee is EPIC, the Eastern Panhandle Instructional Cooperative.
I would like to be on that again if possible. I've enjoyed working on that committee.
Okay.
I think you've done a good job with that, Mark, as far as being able to go with Dr. Gibson and give us good feedback on that, considering what your experience has been. I feel like you've done a great job on that committee.
Well, thank you. It's been a learning experience. I've never worked with a cooperative before.
All right, so we have Mark for that one. The next is James Rumsey Admin Council. And I'd like to do that one if nobody objects. All right. Next, we have the Cooperative Extension Service Committee, the 4-H Committee. Who would like that one?
I have done that in the past. If nobody else wants to do it, I can do it again. But if somebody else wants to do it, fine.
Any other takers?
Come on.
Mr. Cable, I think if you enjoyed it.
Huh?
I said, Mr. Cable, I think if you enjoyed it and you do give good reports on that as well.
Well,
Sounds
I don't
good to
know.
me. They meet during the day sometimes too. Am I correct if I remember that?
No, we usually meet at Bardane. I've forgotten now. But I think it was usually 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Next up is the McCormick Fund Committee.
I've
Any-
been on that ever since I've been on the board, so that only meets twice a year. But if somebody else wants that, you're welcome to it too.
I'd love to do that, Mr. Cable.
You have it.
All right. Lori, you've got that one. Jefferson County Development Authority.
I'm
Come
on
on,
that.
Come on, Donna, you haven't stepped up here yet.
Well, I just want to make sure that I get the one I want.
Oh, there'll be plenty to go around.
I don't know enough about these different committees. I don't know when they meet or how. I know some of them are paid, and like Mr. Cable said, one only meets twice a year. So I just don't know enough about them. I'm interested in the cultural diversity. So can anybody tell me any more about the rest of the committees? When does the Jefferson County Development Authority meet? Anybody know?
It usually meets on Wednesday, I believe, if I remember correctly. I'm on that now, and I think it's on. I think it's on Wednesday, but I've missed several meetings because of my illness. But it's. I mean, if somebody else wants that, you're welcome to it.
It sounds like it might still be yours, Mr. Cable.
I guess I'll suffer through it.
All right. Next is the Vocational Advisory Committee, which is required by the state.
I'd be interested in that one. If we're required to pick two, is that the idea?
Well, there's 9, so it's 1 or 2. Who's doing it now?
Mr.
You,
Cable?
Mr. Cable?
When does that meet?
It usually meets in the evening. It's not a monthly meeting. It's when it's needed.
Yeah.
Hey, Kathy, if you can't find anybody else, I'll do that one.
I was just going to say, if nobody else can do it, I can do that one along with James Rumsey. I don't know if they go together or not, but.
Not really, but there's, I mean, other than they both belong to the board.
All right, so who wants it? Mark, did I say you volunteered to do it?
Oh, I'll take it.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, next we have Parks and Rec.
Who's had that one so far?
I've had that one for the past 6 years, so it's probably time to rotate off of that one. Ms. Joy, would you be willing to do that one?
What's the 8th one? What's the next one?
Library Board?
I'd rather do the Vocational Advisory than Parks and Rec.
Well, on the library board, you're welcome to do too if you'd like, because I've done that for the last 6 years, and I think it could use some new, fresh outlook between the two of those committees with Parks and Rec and the library board.
I'm not interested in the library board. I'm interested in the cultural diversity, vocational advisory.
I think that's the one Mark just.
She can have that one. That doesn't bother me.
Sounds
All right.
like I had offered, and then
All right, so we'll put Donna on the Vocational Advisory. Then we have Parks and Rec.
When does Parks and Rec meet?
Wednesdays at 7 once a month.
If nobody else is interested in that, I'll take that one.
Okay, thank you. Library board,
Again, I don't certainly mind doing that because our libraries do have a connection to our levy vote. So that is extremely important to keep, abreast of what's going on in the libraries and how those are connecting. But I have done it for a while, so if anybody else wants to do that and get involved in that, you're more than welcome to do that.
We haven't heard any bad on you, so
Give it time, Mr. Cable. Give it time.
we'll put you down there for the moment. Does that work?
It's fine. It's fine.
And if we need to, I mean, these aren't set in stone, so if we need to reshuffle at some point, we can do that as well.
Okay.
And then we have cultural diversity.
So that's the one I was on, and then Miss Roper was on for a while, and then I got back on doing some work with Mr. Rutherford and others in that. So, I do enjoy that committee. It is my favorite. But obviously Miss Joy wants to, or has some interest in that. So, or maybe it's something we can do where we can serve on that together.
I was gonna say, I don't think there's anything saying more than one person could do it.
Yeah.
Because I know in the past we've had to cover for each other when we couldn't make a meeting.
Very true. Very true. That works for me if it works for you, Donna.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, well, we'll put both of you on that one then. All right. So what I have is for EPIC, I have Mark. For Rumsey, I have Kathy. For the Cooperative Extension, I have Gary. For the McCormick, I have Lori. For the Development Authority, I have Gary. For Vocational Advisory, I have Donna. For Parks and Rec, I have Mark. For Library, I have Lori. And Cultural Diversity, I have Lori and Donna. Is there a motion to accept those committee assignments?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Thank you.
tell me what mine are again too, please. I didn't write them down.
Cooperative Extension Service, the 4-H, and the Development Authority. So we have a motion
Okay.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Old business, discussion and action on graduation date. Madam Superintendent, can you help us out a little bit there, please?
Madam Chair, members of the board, as we did at the last board meeting, we brought forth a proposal for holding a live in-person graduation ceremony for our graduating class of 2020. At that time, as we continue to do now, we have a proposal for a date of Saturday, August the 8th, with a rain date of Sunday, August the 9th, for the ceremony to be held at Washington High School for both schools, both because of the field work that's currently being done at Jefferson High School to avoid any damage in the significant investment that we've made in remediating and repairing that field. And for the significant cost reduction in holding both graduations at the same location. The sound system alone, holding it on one site, saves us about $4,000. That is, in all other aspects, our committee has worked and established a set of safety protocols and a set of criteria for both social distancing and for ticketing. At the last board meeting, the board made the decision based on some of those limitations, including having less than 4 tickets per student because of the size of the stadium and social distancing requirements. The board felt like those limitations were not in keeping with the students' desire for a quote unquote traditional graduation, because it would still entail a lot of modifications from what they originally had. So at the time, they voted to move the graduation ceremony to May of 2021. In the original proposal, we had set aside a portion of graduation weekend in May 2021 for any graduates who could not make the August 8th, 9th date if they still wanted to graduate and to walk and to have some special portion of the ceremony dedicated to them. At the time, the board voted to have the entire ceremony moved to there in the hopes that they could, the students could enjoy a full traditional graduation, butcher center, tickets, the whole 9 yards. I understand that there's been some public feedback since then to the board, and you want to reconsider that issue.
Thank you for the summary. I know we didn't have time to do an official survey of the students, but I think over the past few days or week, we've gotten a pretty strong unofficial survey of the students as to what they want and what they're willing to take at this point. And, you know, if we can give them closure before they move on to the next stage of their life, I think it may not be the full closure that we wanted, but at least it'll be some sort of closure for them. Any other thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else got the email today, but I got the email today that move-in day for WVU starts Saturday, May 8th.
Saturday, May 8th?
Or sorry, August 8th. Wishful thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back in time and get this over with.
You both.
So I know that there was a conflict the first weekend in August with Ms. Fitzgerald. Ms. Fitzgerald, do you mind, was that both days of the weekend, or was it just one day of the weekend?
I'll work around it. If I know what the decision is, I'll make adjustments accordingly.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so if move-in date for WVU is the 8th, we can't, as much as I've tried to clone myself over the past few years, I don't think we can get students to clone themselves. So the earliest as a school system that we could handle it would be the first weekend in August. Is that correct, Dr. Gibson?
Well, the first and foremost, the restriction is whether or not the sound company is available. We checked during the board's original vote to see whether or not it was, and they were at the time. Secondary to that, I will simply convey that we now have 3 weeks. So if that's going to be the decision, we can make that work, but we may need some additional resources from staff to make that happen. It is a fairly large undertaking for the signage and the amount of staff that we need voluntarily to come and set that up and serve as ushers for people when they're entering a very unfamiliar situation and what the expectations are. So yes, ma'am, as Ms. Fitzgerald said, we will make it work at the board's behest, but it may well require more resources than what we had originally anticipated.
Dr. Gibson, do you think it would be wise to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce to ask for some partnership with some local businesses as well?
As long as they are willing to follow the safety guidelines that we have set in place from the Jefferson County Health Department, we will certainly take people who are willing to volunteer their time and effort both to help us set up, because it's a very different setup. I went out with Mr. Schaefer a couple of weeks ago, and just us marking off one small section of the bleachers trying to get counts as well as we could and keep social distancing took quite a bit of time. So we're going to need a lot of volunteers because all of those spaces have to be marked off, they have to be numbered, and we have to create a ticketing system for families. So for instance, if you had a child graduating, let's say my son Jericho was graduating, I get a set of tickets and it has a number, sort of like a box seat where your family sits together, because we have families together and then there's social distancing between the family groups. So it's a very different setup than what people are used to. And we believe it will take a good number of additional staff for us to support ushering people and, quite frankly, getting compliance from people to maintain the safety guidelines that we set up.
You're going to need the National Guard in there to have enough people to get all these people where they're supposed to be, and then put glue on their britches so that'll stay there.
Well, the plan was to have Washington High School's graduation from 10 to 12, and then get everyone out clean, which again will take a small army of volunteers, and then get set up for Jefferson High from 2 to 4 p.m. We do have additional staff on call for the bathroom cleanings, which we have a set schedule for during the ceremony. Again, I will simply say, just like school and everything else that we're doing right now, it is a completely new setup with completely new requirements that both our own staff and the public won't be familiar with. So it will take just a lot of patience and kindness and reminders for people. We will still have to set up a ticketing. First of all, we have to create the tickets now. And then we have to set up a system for the graduates to come and get the tickets prior to the ceremony so they know what their numbers are and get directions out to people. So again, it can be done, but I'll make no bones about it, we will need assistance, as much manpower as we can get to make it work.
So are we looking at the Sunday then, as we traditionally do graduation on a Sunday, the 2nd, or Sunday if we can't do the 8th, to try to get as many kids as we can? That's 3 weeks, right? Or are we going to try to pull it off on a Saturday?
If we can do it on a Sunday, certainly we can do it on a Sunday. And the only reason that we had said Saturday, Sunday previously is there's no alternative for rain. We cannot have graduation inside. That was very particular on the governor's order. It has to be an outside graduation. It's too large a group to move inside, even if we had the space, and we do not. So if there is inclement weather, then we have to cancel. And if we cancel within a certain time period, because we've paid the sound person for their availability, if we hold it a different weekend, then we have to pay their setup fee again. It is a cost to hold it over for a day, but it's less of a cost. So the idea was we'd do Saturday and then have a rain date of a Sunday, but we can also do a Sunday and a rain date of a Monday, or a rain date of the following weekend, or say if it pours, then we go into May. That's the will of the board. I'm looking ahead on my weather app to try to do a time machine forward to August the 1st and August the 2nd.
If we knew you had one of those all this time and you didn't share forward-thinking information,
Right. You know, right now, both of those days are partly cloudy, but no forecast for rain.
So if we do Saturday, August 1st as the day, and then have a rain day of Sunday, August 2nd.
Or we go Sunday and then we go rain date of Monday night and Tuesday night.
That's 3 days for the sound system though.
Yeah.
Although I do agree with Ms. Ogden. In the past, we've had, because we've done it on Sunday the last several years to get away from any of our sports. And right now, WVSSAC, we're still working through the fall sports schedule. To my knowledge, we don't have any a significant, like we don't have states or anything like that, but I cannot say what sports schedule others might have during that. So typically we get better participation on Sundays simply because people don't schedule other things to compete with it. But that, again, that's the will of the board. We'll make whatever you need work.
Well, if we did Sunday, August 2nd, and then had Monday as the rain date, could they both be done Monday night? Like one at, well, I know there's lights in the stadium, but that would still be pretty late.
It would be late. It's the movement of people. It's the movement of people. Getting people to get in and out. They want to linger and have discussions. It will be, I'll be honest, it will be difficult enough for us to get everyone out and get them out of the parking lot because they linger, especially these folks who have not seen each other in quite some time and they want to socialize and they are excited about seeing each other. Quite frankly, between the Charlestown Police Department and the Sheriff's Office and our staff, it will be all hands on deck simply to keep people moving and get them out so that we can get set up for the next graduation.
I think it almost has to be on a Saturday, Sunday. I don't think you're going to be able to do this on a weeknight.
I will also put out, only because of the last 2 days, if it gets above a certain temperature on that turf field, we have in the past canceled games because the ground temps got up over 100 degrees. And it was dangerous for us to have sports there. I don't anticipate that. The weather doesn't have a scorching 99-100 degree day. But if there are any unsafe conditions, as I stated, we don't have an alternative. We would have to cancel.
That is the other benefit of doing it in an evening, even if it has to be 2 evenings in a row on a Monday, Tuesday, because you do get cool temperatures.
That
But
is
if
true.
it gets up that high in the late afternoon, if you're going to do it like 6 o'clock or something like that, the fields, it doesn't cool off that quick.
Matter if it's a Monday, Tuesday, or a Saturday, Sunday in the early morning or the evening. Does it matter? Do you understand my question?
Does it matter in terms of what, ma'am? In terms of the cost?
No, I'm saying why not a Saturday, Sunday, whether you're making, just because you want to move it in the evening because of temperatures, doesn't mean you have to change it from a Saturday to a Monday. So I don't understand the problem with scheduling it on a Monday and Sunday, I mean a Saturday and Sunday being the rain date. And then you decide which time of day, earlier in the day on Saturday or later, to avoid the heat.
So
I think the only discussion that we were having with that, Dr. Joy, is that traditionally our graduations are held on Sundays. So even though I know things are very, very different, we're trying to figure out if we're going to throw this off, which it already is, how much do we throw off? Do we stay with the Sunday because traditionally we've been graduating on a Sunday, but we would need a rain date and you can't go backwards. So that's why we were discussing, do we go with Saturday, Sunday, or stay with the Sunday and then make the rain date the Monday, Tuesday, because we can't do them both on a weeknight.
Well, and again, if temperature or weather is a concern, to Dr. Joy's point, if we did, because we're right now it's scheduled Washington and then Jefferson. So if we did Washington on a Saturday evening when it's cool and we don't have the temps and we have lights, and then we did Jefferson on a Sunday evening, and if we got rained out or if there was a problem, then we could move to the following weekend of the 8th, 9th. That is also an option, so that you don't have that time compression in between. When we held the ceremonies at the Butcher Center, we had 3 hours between ceremonies for us to change everything out, not do the same level of cleaning, quite frankly, because it wasn't an issue. We just picked up all of the old programs people dropped and laid out new ones. But to get everybody out of the parking lot. And then we had the Shepherd University Police backed up by some members of the Sheriff's Department. So again, I will say that a 2-hour turnaround between graduations is tight.
Very tight.
So does anyone have any, issue with doing that? A Saturday night Washington and a Sunday night Jefferson?
Why not do a Saturday morning Jefferson, Saturday night Washington? You have time to clean, and then you can use Sunday for the rain date for both. I understand this tradition, but I think most people would prefer a Saturday graduation because they have people coming in from out of town. It's more inconvenient to have a graduation on a Sunday, I would think, for most people.
And who went first last time? Did we graduate Washington first last year?
No, Washington goes first this year.
Although, again, that's I'm trying to remember what it was last year. This time, because Washington was home, it was on their home turf, they went first. So either way, we can make that work between them if we pushed one forward for earlier in the morning. We didn't think we could start any earlier than 10 a.m. We just won't get kids who have not been getting up and coming to school for 3 months are not going to get up for a 9 a.m. ceremony and everybody in their seats. So we felt 10 was the earliest we could do it. I do think that 2 is really pushing it for J High, so we probably need to push that back a little bit later.
Well, I think it's fair to ask, and it's if we're going to end up doing or choosing a Saturday, and we're going to choose the Saturday the 1st, if that's what we end up with, which is a more convenient time. I think it's fair to ask Ms. Fitzgerald, since she's on the call, is it more convenient with the other things that you already have planned as well? Since I know you are willing to accommodate whatever we need, would the morning time or the afternoon, evening time be more convenient for you to be able to still get to your other commitment that you've already made that you're willing to work around?
I don't know that it would make a significant difference, and I would absolutely defer to Washington as they would be hosting us. And I've talked with Judy about that, and we're truly fine. We'll make it work out.
Okay.
So at this point, can I just have a motion for graduation to be set for Saturday, August 1st with a rain date of Sunday, August 2nd? And the details can be worked out with you, Dr. Gibson, as far as who goes when, and as long as we get the date done.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a motion?
Sure.
All right, Dr. Joy. Is there a second?
Second, Osborne.
Further discussion? All right. All in favor of setting the 2020 graduation on Saturday, August 1st with a rain date of Sunday, August 2nd?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Can we ask Mr. Cable, can you share what your thoughts are on that?
Yes, I can. I've just, it's just not what I think we ought to be doing. I'll put it that way, and we'll leave it at that.
All right, that's
We've
fair
spent-
enough.
We've spent enough time on it already.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much. Next, we have action on approval for the bid of the development of the Wildwood Middle School athletic fields.
Good evening. The operations department this evening is seeking action on approval of the bid for the Wildwood Middle School development of the athletic fields. Dr. Gibson, if you could share your screen, I'll present the bids. We had a mandatory pre-bid meeting this time, which produced 4 bidders, 3 of which made a bid. And we do this evening have a successful low bid. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
We see we have a base bid and we have several alternates. And this evening, you can see that the base bid, the differences are significant in the bidders, with Jefferson Asphalt being the low bidder. They were the low bidder in every area, alternate 1, alternate 2, alternate 3. Our recommendation this evening would be that we sod the field, as it's easier to establish sod, but of course, we'll leave that to the will of the board. So we'll kind of let you discuss and see if you'd like to proceed from here.
Now, there's quite a difference in the sodding. So
There is, absolutely.
but Jefferson's their bid is gonna, it's okay. It's gonna give us a good job on the sod. I mean, you can get lots of different qualities of sod. So as long as we're going to get good sod.
Randy's here to speak to the specs of the sod. Randy, was there a particular kind of sod we asked for in the specifications?
We did have a specification for the sod, and I don't know exactly offhand what it was, but Jefferson, just like the other bidders, will have to comply with that specification. They'd be bound by the contract if the board chooses to approve them for this low bid. So our job is to make sure that they follow the specifications and the requirements, and they will not be paid if they do not follow the specifications.
Good enough.
And this is for both those fields back there, or is this just for one? Is this for the 2 fields?
Yes, in the bids, they're the 2 fields. The base bid is your game field.
Mm-hmm.
And then it has the sodding underneath, and then the practice field is I believe alternate 2, correct, Randy? Yes.
That's correct.
Grading approximately 3,600 cubic yards to construct a practice field. So that's priced at $177,000. And then sodding the practice field priced at $37,000 underneath it.
Okay.
Are materials all equivalent? Are we
Yes.
talking all the same materials?
In the specification, the materials are all equivalent. Mhm.
It's just a huge difference.
It is a huge difference, yes.
And who will be watching to be sure that they're meeting these specifications? Whose job is that?
That'll be Brandon's job. Randy will be right behind Brandon. That will be part of my job as well. We will watch the project. In addition, we have written in the specifications that we can ask a geotechnical engineer to make sure that the field is the way we want to have it. So that person will also be watching the project so that it's done correctly.
I'm just a little concerned because of the vast price difference.
Yes, there is quite a span in the price difference.
Do either give a guarantee, and for how long? Does either company offer any sort of guarantee?
Randy, I don't believe that was in the specifications. They do have to stay with the project till the sod is established. So they'll be back on the job until they get either grass seed or sod established. They have to water and mow the grass. Also, it would be the responsibility of a geotechnical engineer that we would hire to ensure that they've got the field leveled and compacted correctly and that the job is done right from the onset. I don't know, Randy, you can speak to general contractor warranty, how long they might warranty that field, or Brandon?
I don't think we have a warranty on the field per se, but just like you said, we have to have established, either established grass or the sod has to be established. And I did speak to Jefferson today, and they do have provisions in their contract to make sure that the fields stay watered and that they are mowed and groomed and so forth, regardless of whether or not we go with the seeding option or the sod option. We also would hold retainage, which is typically 5% of the contract. We will hold that until we are satisfied that they have met all terms of the contract.
What are the, pardon me, what is the final number of this contract? If you add all of this up.
If you go with the sod, it's going to be about 294 for one field.
294.
Yeah,
For
if you go
one?
with the sod.
Let me be 264, Brandon.
264?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
what
that's an 8.
No.
Or is that a 5?
Yeah, it's a 4.
Oh, all right, my bad. 264
Yeah, that's what I had it.
That's total?
That's just
for
for the
one
base
field.
and
Pardon?
alternate one. That's just for base bid and alternate one. If you want to do both fields with sod, I believe it's 468 and some change.
And Ms. White, what about timing as far as the grass or the seed versus the sod, or just in general? Is the project going to be done in time for kids to practice on it in August?
The field itself, we anticipate, yes, would be done. It would be the sod or the seed that wasn't established and ready to be played upon.
Right.
The sod would establish faster, but we anticipate maybe like September-ish at the earliest, it would be ready, where kids might be able to play on that. And Randy can correct me, but we've debated that for quite some time. And you know, they're in there to care for it well. That's put in their contract. So,
yeah.
And it's based on the grass seed, Kathy, because you don't put just any grass seed to make it grow. They use specific seeds when they seed field. And that is unfortunately not a fast growing grass seed. In fact, most fields use a blend.
Yes.
And Kentucky bluegrass being one of them. And it's not a very fast grower.
Mm-hmm.
Lasts longer. The
Yes.
seed, which one?
Well, but there's
Oh, the
days.
seed or the sod? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
It's going to depend on us
Right?
and the amount of usage.
Given the
there's-
same amount of usage for each type of field in general, which lasts longer?
It's really just going to depend on, you know, that field's not going to be irrigated. We're not putting in an irrigation system. So, you know, you could put sod down, and if we get a dry spell and no one waters it, it's going to dry up. If we play on it too early, it's going to ruin the sod. So, I mean, I don't really know if we can answer which one is going to last the longest. I mean, it's going to really depend upon how much time and effort we put into making sure that it stays watered as we get through the dry season.
In general, you know, just statistically, theoretically, which lasts longer. So you're saying that sod needs more care. Is that accurate?
They'll both
No.
need watered pretty extensively. The sod will take root much faster. It'll need about 6 to 8 weeks. So that would be your quickest option.
But it's not really, it's not really wise to get this in the ground, so to speak, at this late, and then expect to play and have a bunch of kids out there tearing it up, because that's, I mean, they're not going to take any care of it. They're interested in going out there and playing on it, and you can, especially when it's this young, you can, you know, they can tear it up. You wouldn't believe how fast. And then we'd have to go back and do a lot of work on it. I think, you know, I would think you wouldn't want to turn the kids loose on it until spring.
I would think that would be a wise course of action just to get everything established.
Absolutely.
I agree with both of you. I think it's very important how we take care of this at first, how long it's going to last us.
Mm-hmm.
And putting that kind of money in it, we want it to last.
Absolutely.
Well, if we can't play on it till next spring, is it worth $87,000 to put the sod versus the seed?
You're going to be taking a while to establish it. The feeling of the contractors who were bidding on it was that in the spring, they would still be mowing and trying to establish grass seed. That was their feeling at the pre-bid meeting. And I would tend to agree with that, just having some experience with grass fields. You're always sowing grass on a grass field somewhere. There's certain times a year you really have to tend a grass field. That's not to say that you don't have things to work through with sod, because with either service you do.
So Ms. White, which one would you suggest at this point?
Oh, I mean, if you want to play on it in the spring, I would say the sod. I think that it's solid. I think that it will establish faster. I think it'll make it through the dry season of August better. It costs more money. So, you know, and Dr. Joy poses a good question: how long does one last versus another? And it's basically about care. What I know about Mr. Vines is that when we turn that field over to him, that he will take the utmost care of whatever we put in his care to take care of. That like most other athletic directors and fields, I think they take great care of what they have and they keep it looking good. And I think Mr. Vines will certainly do that.
The sod will be thicker, quicker, and maintain that thickness over time as well.
Yeah. Well, the sod already has an established root system.
It does, and
Whereas
that's an advantage.
if you're putting seed down, you have to wait for those roots to establish. And so that I mean, if you want to have it ready for spring, hopefully, you better go with the sod.
Does Mr. Vines realize that we need to take that field out of commission? I mean, I realize that we're not in a regular practice schedule and everything else right now anyway, but the thought that he would not have that field all fall until the spring.
Mr. Stewart has been working with them, and they've been having meetings. They've established meetings to establish a schedule to work with what they have. Mr. Stewart has kept me apprised of the meetings, and they seem to be working it out. Things are going well as far as rotation. I haven't had any feedback to the contrary. So yes, they are aware of it.
Okay. And thank you, Joyce, for the extra effort with you and Brandon with the pre-bid meeting.
Oh,
Clearly
our
made a
pleasure.
difference. Good.
Right. It did make a difference. It made a huge difference. And I think that it was worth our effort to go back out again to get the price that we're getting. And, you know, definitely, as with any low bid watch the quality of that. I think we have quality companies that have made a bid. They do this for a living, so I'm confident we'll end up with a good product and a nice field.
And Mr. Cable made a good point where, you know, if we put sod down to the layperson, it's going to look like a playable field right away, even though it's baby grass that hasn't been established. Is there a way to, you know, like put that orange fence around it or something just to let people know that it's not to be played on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think Mr. Vines will be happy enough. He's been doing this ever since that school building has been there. So I'm sure he's willing to put up with a little bit of stuff to get this field.
I agree, Mr. Cable, and I think he deserves the sod.
I think he does too.
I do too.
And Ms. White, did this base bid, does that include the bleachers as well?
Yes, I believe it does. Yes, I
What?
see Randy nodding. Yes, it does.
Okay.
Oh, it's not on here.
No, it was in the specifications.
It's
Oh,
in the bid.
okay. Okay.
It's in the bid packet and in the specifications. It'll include a concrete walkway as well.
Yes.
All right. So Ms. White, your recommendation is to go with Jefferson asphalt with the sod for both fields. Is that correct?
That is correct. I just need to know whether if you're going to make a motion, whether it's for the game field or whether it's for a game and practice field, and whether you want sod or seed on both, or the one you choose.
So I'd make a motion that we choose Jefferson asphalt to do both the game field and the practice field with sod.
Is there a second?
Before we do that, we are having the money to do both of these. I haven't heard anybody say for sure.
I get the feeling that you are waiting for me to convey to you that we do have the money. And I will convey to you that the board has not allocated funding for this project yet. We did set aside $100,000 towards our field project. That was, Mr. Osborne had asked for that for several years for us to start putting aside $100,000 per year towards field projects. So we do have that $100,000 on our budget. We do have some funding in our maintenance budget towards fields. However, we do not have the full, I believe it was 468,000 for both full fields with sod on both fields. We do not currently have that funding identified in our budget. The board can designate that out of carryover funds. As you know, we were very, very conservative this year because we have concerns about our allocation from the state, both in terms of reduced enrollment. I believe that several months ago, I gave at the West Virginia School Board Association meeting when WVU's economics, School of Business and Economics, we were one of the top 3 fastest growing counties in the state, but our age 0 to 19 census had fallen precipitously. So it's not that children aren't choosing Jefferson County schools, it's that the people who are moving here based on our housing prices aren't necessarily people with children. So we saw some reductions from that. And as I stated, we have some concerns regarding our expenditures on PPE and the potential that the state may not provide all of the funding they have promised. So I certainly, in terms of caution, would say that perhaps you would like to approve the game field with a contingency for the practice field based on funding availability. Certainly, if we are able to procure the bond in November, these fields, along with the payback from the Washington High field and track and the Jefferson High track, that was $1.5 million, well, $1.3 million that we expended in trust that our families would then vote to reimburse that funding so that we could fund these other regular projects. All of these would be contingent on us replenishing our coffers from the November bond.
What was the clarification? The cost for just the game field with sod on it, what would that be?
I believe that was quoted at 264, correct, Ms. White? Ms.
That's
Cate?
correct, yes.
Thank you. Also, a point of clarification, the money that I suggested was a savings account for fields in the future. And I don't have a problem with taking it this time, but we still need our savings account for turf in the future. And we probably need it at more than that amount of money per year if we are going to replenish those fields in 10 years.
I will also convey to the board that Ms. Marone and I met with the county regarding this year's impact fee study. As you are likely aware, the county reviews the formula for the impact fee every 5 years. The last one happened prior to my arrival, so I hadn't participated before. And one of the things when I got the data and then met with the county and with the person who's doing the analysis to review was that they have never included in the formula the cost of any external facilities. No fields, no playgrounds, no field houses, nothing. And our expenditures on athletic fields and field houses and lights, as you've seen, runs into millions when needed to be replaced and hundreds of thousands a year in maintenance. So we are developing a formula jointly with them for them to take that into consideration as we grow and have had to add on field space to account for that within the impact fee formula. So that will be one small thing, but that will take years and years to accumulate to the point of use.
From that standpoint, it looks to me like we're jumping the gun here a little bit.
Can I have clarification on the motion that's on the floor?
So my motion was to put in the game field and the practice field and to do it with sod, based on my personal viewpoint that the soccer kids need to all be back at Jefferson High School, and that complex needs to be provided as such that all those kids can come back with the adequate spacing. It has been a long time, and I feel like it's worth that. That's my personal opinion. It is worth the carryover to me to put those fields in, knowing that I do feel like the Jefferson High School families would support a bond in that way as well, looking for further clarification for them that they want a turf field as well. I don't know how that would feel to, again, I just feel like we would do that halfway yet again. That's just me personally.
Ms. White, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think it would be possible to break this bid into phases where if we did the game field now, could we get locked in on this pricing for the practice field in November if the bond were to pass?
I should think we would be able to do that.
I'm sorry?
I should think we would be able to do that. Randy, did we have any language in there that prevented us from doing that? Do you have any input on that?
No, we could go to the contractor and make that request. And I agree with you, Ms. White. I don't see an issue necessarily with that being the case.
And Randy, is it possible to do this kind of work, land work in November, December, so that if we needed to, put the other field in as soon as that bond passed, then get it established for spring?
It is possible. It's all, as you know, it's all weather dependent. If it's a really wet, cold fall, that'll limit us. If it's a dry, more seasonable fall, early winter, then they can certainly do the grading and get that established.
I do think that's a wise course of action, if you want my recommendation.
Does that take an amended motion, or that just takes a request on how to manage the motion on the floor?
I would say an amended motion.
I agree.
I agree.
So do you want me to amend my motion? Because that makes sense to me, and I'm more than willing to do it that way. We're still getting both pieces.
Yes, please.
So I'd amend my motion that at this point we move forward with the competition field with a sod, and we also vote for the practice field with sod based on our November bond projection or bond outcome.
So there's a motion on the floor for awarding Jefferson Asphalt the game field with sod, and the part 2 of that is the practice field with sod based on the passing of the bond. Is that correct, Ms. Ogden?
That sounds correct, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Any further discussion or question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
I will note, Ms. Skinner, for the board that we will add that project to the November bond that we'll be bringing forth to the board for your bond call vote at the next meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
And can we also, if I don't mind stepping here, can we also check as well, Ms. White and Mr. Caton, with Mr. Vines about that as far as timing and as well as possible funding that I know he has been working on as well to secure bleachers and a field back there that he has vocally said he is more than willing to help out with. So.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up we have, we don't have a consent agenda, but we have human resources. And Superintendent, did you have any comments this evening about the human resource section?
I do. I'm actually pretty excited. One of the most important things that we do, and as I often tell the board, I think my superpower is that we hire well. So I am very pleased to introduce the person that I am putting forth to the board as my recommendation for the next principal of the Blue Ridge campus, Ms. Tara Lusby, who's in on this call. We are quite blessed. She has a bachelor's degree in early childhood from Jacksonville State and a master's degree in ed leadership from Austin Perry. And in keeping with that role, she has experience as a kindergarten teacher, K through 3. She's been an academic coach. She's a trained trauma-informed teacher. She was a technology resource teacher, and she was the assistant principal at the facility prior to Ms. Ziegler's retirement. As the board well knows, our process requires that there is a parent, a service person, a teacher, and all of the central office support personnel on the hiring committee, and it has to have 100% unanimous consent or we don't hire. And for somebody with 25 plus years of experience teaching, and you know, I have 25 plus years too, but apparently we have different skin regimens. Love you, Miss Lesby, because you're looking great for 25 years. I was shocked when I saw that you started in 95. So if you could introduce yourself, Ms. Lesby, and say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Miss Lesby and Tara Lesby, and I'm extremely excited and just humbled and honored to be able to come before you and be put before you as the candidate for the principal for Blue Ridge campus.
So thank you for that opportunity, Madam Chair, to introduce Ms. Lesby.
Well, thank you for joining us, Ms. Lesby. All right. So is there a motion to approve the human resource recommendations for this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cable. Any question or discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendations for human resources?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our meeting. So just welcome back, Mr. Cable and Mr. Osborne, and welcome, Dr. Joy. Look forward to serving with you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Oh, wait. Dr. Gibson, do you have something else?
Well, we typically have superintendent's comments.
I thought we were missing something.
Did you see that Miss Skinner did not, she just completely skipped the superintendent's comments portion of our evening?
It's not on my agenda.
A pretty big chunk.
It is. As I have at every board meeting for the last several months, I just wanted to give you an update where we are on our re-entry planning. And as I had sent a notice to the board, as the state and federal government continue to issue new orders, we certainly have seen and heard some concern from our constituents. They're worried. They would like for us to have some guidance and some clarity around what we're going to be putting forth. So some of the fundamental things that the board has conveyed to us all along that they really wanted to see in our plan. First and foremost, now that WVDE loosened their restrictions, we are committed to 5 days a week with every student on campus every day. We are required to set aside time for deep cleaning and for teacher planning. So we anticipate that those days will be shortened in some way. We are sending out a survey to parents and staff to get feedback from them on the several different ways that we can do that. Joyce and the nursing staff and the Jefferson County Health Department have been working very hard on a fairly significant safety plan for our staff and for our students. I think last time I looked at it, it was 14 pages and counting, but it articulated clearly what PPE was available for staff and for students, when it would be required versus when it would be optional. Of course, that's always going to be dependent on the standing orders at the time. We were clear that we will continue to offer a virtual option to families. We will continue to support our staff in maintaining the safety standards that they need in order to protect themselves and their families. We also, every one of our teachers will, number one, they'll be starting the year with a Google Classroom. Every teacher is going to set up a Google Classroom. Every student will be on a JCS issued device and open and do some lessons in Google Classroom, so that if the governor declares a shutdown, we can move to full virtual for every one of our students within 48 hours. That is our goal. It is a pretty ambitious goal, but it is a goal, and we're laying the groundwork for that. We also, we have some of our folks who are going through extensive training this summer in some responsive teaching and social emotional support for our students coming back who are struggling. We will also be doing training with our teachers on that and how to meet those students' needs, because we have some very real concerns about the trauma and social isolation that these students have suffered. And we are also looking at the possibility of the first week of school having a staggered schedule or gradual reentry, because 9,000 students, that is a lot of children to teach an entirely new routine at the same time. So the idea is that we could bring students in batches, much like we do for kindergarten orientation, where we bring them in small groups. So we have plenty of time to talk and walk them through in a less crowded situation, where we can spend a lot more time easing their fears and showing them how to maneuver the new guidance that we have with signage on the floors and on the walls, and what is acceptable behavior and what's not acceptable behavior in the new school. That is going to take a lot of teaching, and there will be a lot of fear and anxiety. And if we can keep the numbers down in the very beginning while we're training folks, we think we can get better compliance and ease folks' anxiety. It is important to us that we do this well. I will say kudos to our team, Sean Dilley, Joyce Wright, Amy Loring, Laura Sutton, Beth, Tanya Dallas Lewis, Hans Fogel, everyone just pulling at the wheel as hard as they can go to try to cover every angle, and getting feedback from our staff. Thank you so much to the union reps who looked over a first draft with some of the fundamentals and are giving us feedback. We have a full draft plan that we are working through at grade levels with our administrators and teachers and some parent groups. We believe that we'll be prepared to put out a full draft to the board on July the 13th, next Monday, with a recognition that it's the first time we're doing it. There's not a lot out there in the world to show us how to do it, but we'll do the best that we can, and quite frankly, we'll stay humble and recognize that we can always do things better, and we'll keep getting feedback and refining it as we go along. So I just wanted to update you on that process and let everyone know that our plan is to have the full draft to you for public dispersal on Monday, July the 13th.
Can I add something to what you said? I recall reading from your letter that you were also going to ensure that students would be trained in Google Docs. I don't think you mentioned it here, but I think that's important, that all students will receive the training.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Absolutely, ma'am. Both that we would create it and that the teachers within the first week of lessons would run several of their lessons in the Google Classroom on Google Docs to train children how to use them. Yes, ma'am, you're entirely correct. That is very important.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I don't think it's going to work. I hate to be that way, but I can't see it. 2 weeks after we start, it's going to blow.
Well, Mr. Cable, it will certainly not look like anything that we've done before. No, sir. And do I think that it will be very upsetting for some people, because people have this idea of school in their heads, and when you change that, I mean, you've seen just one little piece when we changed graduation, how upsetting and heartrending it was for people. And that's one ceremony, one day a year. And now we're talking about changing how you do school, how you ride the bus, how you come into class, how you run your classes, how you change in the hallways, what your schedules are. All of those will be changed. How you get your lunch, what you can do at recess, all of those will be new. So yes, I do expect it to be difficult. I'm not going to minimize that. No amount of planning that we do is going to make everybody dance in the streets and sing hosannas. But at the same time, we also recognize 9,000 children, that is nearly, let's just say lots of children in one family, more than 8,000 families. They have to have jobs. They have to feed their kids. They have to work through with their lives. And if we can't provide them with a degree of very safe, reasonable childcare and educate their children so they're not falling even further behind, we will end up with a much bigger problem on our hands. So, you know, we're committed. We got to keep our staff safe, because if I don't have safe staff, then we don't have school, because all the computers in the world can't teach kids. I've got to have the staff safe. We have to take care of them. And then we take care of them and they take care of kids. So I think we have a good plan for doing that, and we have fantastic staff. I think all of you can attest to that, both who've been in schools, worked in schools. You know these staff. They're very, very good at what they do. So all due respect, no, I don't think it's going to be perfect, but I don't think it's going to blow up. No, sir, I don't. I trust these people. They've worked themselves pretty darn hard, completely reinventing school.
And I certainly believe that. You know, you guys have worked your rear ends off all summer working on this. There's no question about that. The problem I see is we've got 9,000 people in 17 buildings, I think.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we're going to have 9,000 kids in that. But in those buildings, we have to separate those kids at least 3.5 or 4 feet apart. How are we going to do that? And how are we going to fit these so-called demands that we feel, and that we protect these kids and all of that? I just don't see it. I can't see it that we're going to have, you know, if we got 14 kids in Jefferson High School and they pretty much fill that school up, how are we going to keep them separated? And how are we going to keep the teachers safe? How are we going to keep the kids safe? You know, the whole thing. I just don't see it. I don't care what the state says or anybody else. I don't see how we can do that. And I think we're asking for trouble. We're going to have more damn sick kids than we can shake a stick at. And long about Thanksgiving or Christmas, we're going to be up the river. I don't care what the what's his name in Charleston, what he says or doesn't say. You know, if you look at all those things, they don't fit. Sorry. And I know you guys have worked yourselves to death all summer trying to make this thing work, but I think you're sliding uphill backwards.
Well, I would agree. The points I would agree with you on is, yes, I do believe that society has run into a problem that they can't solve, and they're frustrated. And so once again, they've just turned to schools and said, make it work. And they've given us a set of rules that are physically very difficult.
And they couldn't do it themselves if they had $1 million an hour. There's not one of them in that's smart enough to figure that out because you can't do it.
I would agree that it is not possible to do it perfectly. No, sir. And when I say that, I will say that we will put forth the best effort. We are going to put in place the protective equipment, the social distancing, the keeping children and adults in pods where we keep the same kids with the same adults all the time so that we contain it. I will be honest with you. Do I think that we will get through a year with 9,000 kids and 1,200 employees and not have anyone get sick? Absolutely not. That is just about statistically impossible. That can't happen. And that's not our goal. Anyone who thinks that that is what we should be doing is living in a fantasy world. That cannot happen. What we can do, however, is set up our system so that we limit exposure, so that if one person does get sick, there is a very small limited number of people that they have been regularly exposed to, and we can separate out and quarantine those people without having the whole system go down. That's our goal. While we're trying to balance out keeping everyone safe with keeping our families' needs met here in Jefferson and our children's needs met for, you know, their social emotional support. One of the things in that letter that you saw was the notice from the American Pediatrics Association, and they are beginning to see, and their pediatricians are beginning to see, an increasing number of children who are coming in with social, emotional, and mental health issues that are exacerbated by this. We know we have students who are in at-risk situations domestically. We know all of these things, and so we're trying to balance out doing the best that we can with what we have. So I agree with you completely. Will we have some a case of illness? Yes, we certainly will. Our goal is to contain and quarantine and be able to serve the greatest good. If it exceeds certain parameters, we may well have to shut down, and that the governor has been clear about that he may call shutdowns in isolated counties and shut down specific school systems, specific counties, and not others, not necessarily a statewide, which is why, to Dr. Joy's point, we are starting very early in the beginning, Google Classroom, and training students on how to use Google Docs and Google Drive so that they have those tools at their disposal if we have to go full virtual for everyone.
Well, Dr. Gibson, you have one more week to perfect the imperfect plan. So can't wait to see what comes next Monday.
Yeah.
Of course, things may change, 6 ways between now and then, but, we'll just have to be flexible and keep working at it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And
Oh,
is that all?
yes, only one more thing, and I apologize. I will also point out that I am doing a weekly conference with Dr. Murphy over in Berkeley and with Ms. Kristen Tuttle over in Morgan. We're aware that we share a lot of families that live in one and have children that go to school in another. And so we've been working on, while we won't have exactly the same plan, we're just very different systems. We've been working on, and in particular at our high school, having similar enough schedules where James Rumsey will function well, and where our families, sort of like with our calendar where we coordinate our spring breaks and things, so that our families don't experience as many childcare issues. So we have been attempting to coordinate on that level as well. Thank you.
All right. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
I didn't mean to holler.
No, sir, when you're right, you're right. And I agree. I do think we get frustrated that people ask the impossible of us, and they think that because teachers are big-hearted people, they should just make it happen. They should just put in their own money and their own time and put their own health and safety at risk when, they're some of the lowest paid profession for all the amazing work that they do. And you're right, it's unfair and it gets frustrating. And at the same time, I got to give it to them heart and soul. They just keep coming back and, you know, making a silk purse out of that sow's ear. But yes, sir, it does get frustrating.
They're a great bunch of people. They are.
All right. Well, thank you very much. It's 8:35 and the meeting's adjourned. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.